Hello everybody. This game I'm about to show you is another game of Masters. It was played in 1911 in the New York Masters between William Morris, who was white, against Marshall, who was black. And the game started e4, e5, d4. This isn't that common anymore. Generally, knight f3 is played, and then after knight c6, then d4, and you have a scotch. This is a centre game, I believe. And here, if you want to try it, you could play the Danish gambit with c3, and then bishop c4, c takes b2, bishop takes. But the Danish gambit has kind of been refuted in the last quite a while now. But yeah, it's not really considered to be that playable anymore because black can get a good game with it. But queen takes is the main move in this opening, and black plays knight c6. So Marshall's just developing with tempo, kicking the queen around. Queen e3, and I believe this is the Rubinstein variation of the centre game. The idea is to still have the queen influencing the centre, and the c1 bishop is temporarily a little bit restricted, but you could play it to d2 and then to c3 if you chose. Marshall develops his other knight, and bishop d2 is played. Now here, this is interesting. This is a similar idea to the Budapest here. Knight g4 is played, attacking the queen, so another tempo is gained by black. Queen g3, and now d5 is played. And the reason I say it's like the Budapest is that in that opening, which I might go through in more detail at a future point in one of my openings videos, is you reroute the knight to e5 where it's on a stronger square, and knight g4 to e5 seems fairly logical here. And in the meantime, it is attacking f2 potentially. But d5 opens the centre because black has more development, and it can easily attack the queen with more pieces getting out. And white plays h3, so instead of e5, black actually goes to f6 to threaten white's pawn and stop sort of normal development. So white captures, and black captures with the knight. So now the knights are very central. Knight c3 is played. So here, I think white would want to swap off, because if the black's developed pieces are swapped off, then the lead in development by black will be reduced. But instead, Marshall played knight c to b4, threatening knight takes c2 check. And if I was playing in this game, I would probably have just castled queenside and sort of had to lose the pawn after knight takes c3, then bishop takes c3, and knight takes a2 check. Wouldn't be great for me, but I think I'd have enough compensation, and black would have to deal with a lot of threats as well. But here, Morris played bishop b5 check, c6, and then rerouting the bishop to guard c2. I mean, it's good, but it does cost a couple of moves. And here, Marshall continues development with bishop f5. So it can be said to be getting a little unpleasant for Morris now. Knight takes, so trying to swap off. Queen takes, developing a new piece. Starting to look a bit ropey for white. There's the threat on c2. Black's ready to castle. Okay, white is as well, but I can't help feeling that black has the more harmonious development here. And in the game, this was hardly the best move, I think, but The move I would probably have played would have been queen e3 check, just trying to reroute the queen and perhaps just to make black's pieces be a little awkward, because if bishop e7, what would you play if bishop e7? Yeah, the bishop's gone into a pin, so I can take the knight on b4 without it being recaptured. So if the queen were to block the check, I could swap off queens, and then there wouldn't really be much of an attack anymore. If bishop e6, I'm at least stopping c2 coming under so much fire, and I could play knight f3. And if black plays king d7, which is interesting, I could probably just castle queenside, and then the queen and king for black would be on the same line. So there are lots of discovered attacks there. I think the best move is bishop e6, knight f3, bishop c5. It could be slightly unpleasant, but after queen e2, castles, bishop b3, queen moves, and then swapping off. I feel that we would reach a position that I would find I'd be happy to play as black here, as white, I mean, against black's isolated pawn on e6. It's not to say it's winning for white or anything, but it's comfortable. It's quite nice. This is just a sample line, of course. It's not forced, but it just shows that white can get out of this even now when things aren't looking so good. But instead, Morris, I think, makes the final mistake of bishop takes knight. So it's trying to eliminate the threat, but black just develops with tempo on the recapture. Bishop takes b4 check, and white needs to block, so c3. And what do you think Marshall played here? Well, bishop d6 is an interesting choice, but after queen takes g7, perhaps, or maybe even queen e3 check, maybe white is getting out of this. But Marshall chose the very active castle queenside. And again, white's faced with a choice here: take the bishop or do something else. What do you think? It's safe to take the bishop on b4? Well, if I was black, I would play rook h to e8, activating all my pieces. King f1 might need to be played here, because knight e2 would, I think, be a disaster after a move like queen d2 check. So queen c4, knight e2, queen takes. And while I'm not getting mated, I can't help but feel that black is completely winning this. There we go, nice. So it's nothing too complicated here for black. 2 pawns up on the queen side. The pushing of the pawns could be left till more stuff is swapped off, so that the king isn't weakened. But I can't see how white can avoid exchanges. The 2 rooks for black are on the only 2 open files, so white will probably have to play a rook to d1 at some point. And if, say, rook a c1 was played, black could just play queen d6, swapping off queens, or put a rook on the 7th. So black is doing very, very well here, and I think most players who, if you had 2 players who are fairly evenly matched, black should win 9 times out of 10 here. So that's why c takes the bishop, c3 takes b4 was not played. Instead, Morris tried his luck with knight f3, which is an improvement, but perhaps knight e2 might have been a little better. However, I think this is just lost here, so maybe nothing was satisfactory, because bishop d6 was now played, and I would probably have played rook h e8 check first, but perhaps it doesn't make a lot of difference. Queen g5, h6 was now played. Here I definitely would have checked the king, but it's difficult to find a square for the queen here. There's h4 or h5, which seem to put the queen out of action completely. Queen e3 walks into a pin along the e-file, so white chose queen d2. And now Marshall did play the check. King d2 was played. King d1 was played, so it's still looking very unpleasant. And now Marshall swapped queens, which normally is something you'd avoid if you were on the attack. You'd want to try and use the queen to really punish the other side. But here it's absolutely fine, because what would happen after king takes? Yeah, there's a beautiful checkmate with bishop f4, a double discovered checkmate, with all of black's pieces hitting squares around the king, and if you didn't have one of them, it wouldn't be checkmate. So I like this sort of finish of sort of fully coordinated pieces working together, whereas white's pieces are, admittedly, two of them are developed, but none of them are working together. And this is just a very good this is a sort of symbolic position of the entire game, really. However, knight takes was played, so Morris did spoil Marshall's fun. But next move, he resigned. What do you think black played to force white's resignation? Yeah, I might have given it away slightly. Just bishop f4 again. And now it's still absolutely horrible for white. According to my computer analysis, it said it was mate in 11, but I don't really think that's too relevant here. I think you should all be able to see that that most of white's pieces are just not doing anything, and black's pieces are perfect. So the next couple of moves are just going to be black taking the knight with his rook, maybe bringing the other rook to e2, and then just carnage is going to ensue. Nothing can really be done to stop black completely decimating white's position and winning more material. So I hope you enjoyed that game. Hope you found it to be useful, and I do love these tactical games. And if you haven't worked out yet, I'm actually planning to show one Masters game for every single year, all the way up to 2016, the current year. So there's going to be at least 110 videos on this over the next. Well, I won't give an exact time frame, but hopefully within the next 6 months, I should have done all all the videos for the Chess Masters playlist. Anyway, if you want me to do it faster than that, comment, like, or subscribe, hopefully all three, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.